Hi guys, what's going on? And welcome back to another live stream. We are live again. It's Thursday evening, well, it depends. It's Thursday for most people, at least for some people it's even Friday, but for most people it's Thursday, and it's Thursday evening here in the Netherlands. But yeah, it's time for the Fantastic Thursday live stream to make your Thursday fantastic or fantastic or whatever you want to say. We got a special guest today, which is Rebecca. Just wait on Rebecca. She'll be here soon. So for the time being, you'll have to just deal with me, I guess. That's pretty much the deal, okay? So let me just quickly already go through and say some hellos and everything. I'll keep an eye on if Rebecca is here. I think she's here already. Let me see if I can hear you. And I can hear you, so I'll bring you on stream, and then let's see. I need the right button, and I need to. It's always figuring this out, you know, every time. All right, yeah. So copy that, paste that. Okay. Right. Cool, that should work. Alright, there we go. Now you should be on. Now we need to see if people can actually hear you.
Yes.
Because if they can't, well then we got an issue.
Yeah, I don't know how, I've only used Streamlabs, so, or whichever's the free one.
Yeah, so, well
StreamYard.
this is like, well, I use OBS, and then this is like, it's part of OBS, but it's a bit more complicated.
Yeah.
You can do a lot more things with it, to be honest with you, but it is a bit more complicated at first. But let's see. It's quite difficult for me because I want to see chat, but then I also need to see you.
Yeah.
So.
I've just got one screen on at the moment.
Just because... Okay, can hear you both, Yuio saying.
Oh, brilliant.
Okay, great. Cool. Yeah, that's good. Okay, I was gonna say some hellos in chat. I think we'll still do that because why not? You know. See who we got here. We got BJD. Nice to see you. Mike is here. Martin is here. Matt is here. Moose is here. Yuio is here. Other Matt is. Did I already say? Yeah, Matt was. Yeah, I already said that. Jody is here. Nice to see you. And that's pretty much it for now, I think. Alright, cool. So, like I already said, or well, I put in the chat, if you got any questions, put them in the chat because I'll get to them then. I got some questions prepared myself as well. Just some quite bit. Well, I got some general ones that I would pretty much ask everybody.
Yeah.
And then maybe some more specific ones, you know. So that should be good. Let's have a look. So what I used to do, at least I haven't done many of these type of streams before. Like,
yeah,
you know,
it's a different style.
It's definitely a different style, and I have to get used to it every time. But what I did last time was actually put the question in the chat, and then I could select it here so it's on screen. But I don't think you can see it that well.
I've split my screen.
Oh, it's okay. So you got this. Okay, then you can see it. Good. Okay. So I guess the first question, you know, is just a general one. You know, can you tell a bit about yourself, what you do, you know, things like that.
So I'm a fish keeper. It's pretty obvious that I keep different fish, but I'm also a scientist. I study and research mostly fish evolution, focusing on Loricariidae, also known as plecos, whiptail catfishes. So most of what I study is so the research I do is usually conducted on like African cichlids, so Rift Valley cichlids, opposed to Loricariidae or plecos, which is so it's kind of applying those techniques to understand Loricariidae, plecos better, but also how evolution works in another context. So I do that, as well as I do a little bit of sort of teaching on the side, mostly anything with skeletons, anything like fish anatomy, and a little bit with evolutionary anthropology, but only a little bit, because it's finding people who handle skeletons, and I happen to be someone that does a lot of it. I've also worked in industry. I worked in several different stores until 2021, so just after COVID, and then I left, and just to mostly focus on the science sort of element to it. I've written many different articles. I've done talks. I've done quite a few different things for fish keeping and for science.
Right. Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Well, that's a good introduction for those who don't know you. I don't know. Maybe there's somebody out there who doesn't, know
Yeah.
what you do. That's definitely possible. But yeah, that's really good, and I find it interesting. You say most of the people, go for like African cichlids and study those. How many do you know, like how many people do that? Because when I think about like, somebody studying fish, here in the Netherlands at least, there's not like a specific fish study, if you know what I mean,
Yeah.
Like, it's
So it's not many people. It's a much smaller group of people, and everyone kind of knows each other, I think, because maybe they've been supervised by someone or they've just collaborated. So there's not that many, and it's mostly for evolution. Unless you're looking at behavior, then it might be guppies, which are very popular. Or if you're looking at what can be compared to humans, then it's zebrafish or zebradano. Then they're the popular choice. It's just different sort of model groups for different studies. And it's just because African cichlids, they're sort of, I guess, easy access. It was quite easy to explore and actually catch them at one time, which is probably why they're still pretty much very well studied, and they're easy to breed, easy to keep. Well, most of them anyway.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah, we have a lot at the lab of Astotilapia calyptra, which is the eastern happy cichlid.
Right.
Which is like the OG African cichlids. It's the original one, original Malawi cichlid, I believe, and one of the first ever imported. They're quite nice. They just breed like rabbits.
Right. Okay. Yeah, that's pretty cool. I was already looking in chat. We already got a question, so I guess we'll go to there. Let's see, from Martin. My question for Rebecca is, if you had a new species of pleco named after you, what would the Latin name be?
I don't know. I'm not actually a big fan of naming fishes after people or after even characters and stuff. It's kind of fancy when people do, but I kind of like the more mythological ones. So anything to do with unicorns I'd like. It's a very girly answer, I guess, but anything unicorns would be cool, because we have everything else. We have Lord of the Rings, plenty of them, plenty of things like that. Need some variation.
Right. Yeah. That's pretty cool. Would you, what is the process? What is actually the process of naming a fish? Is it who decides? Is it when somebody discovers a fish, they generally just name it after themselves, or is there a whole process behind it?
You shouldn't name it after yourself. So it's seen as a bit egotistical to name it after yourself, which is why we have what is still Corydoras. So it's Corydoras narcissus. If you look up the story behind that, that's kind of why you shouldn't name it after yourself. But the actual process is a little bit, it depends. So the authors might decide on a name between themselves, and usually it's maybe a lead author's choice, or maybe that fish means quite a lot to one of the authors. And then there's a set of rules that you have to go by. So, which is why I think it threw a lot of people when Corydoras got split up, and a load of the species names changed. So instead of Corydoras anneus, it was Corydoras aenea, and Trilineatus became Trilineatum. And that's just because they also have genders, like I think French and Spanish have genders. There's other rules as well. It has to be in the English language, hence like there's a load of dinosaurs that have Chinese names, but they're written in English. It's a little bit of a art, but there's a rule book, and it's quite a long rule book. But
Right, okay. Yeah, okay, that's interesting. I mean, the thing, with the whole the Corridors renaming thing and stuff, like, I don't know how effective it is, because in the trade, like, if I look at my wholesaler, the names they use is still Corridorus, Corridorus, Corridorus. So, like, how long is that going to take before that's going to change? Like, that's going to be years,
Probably, yeah. Like, if you're still seeing Hoplosternum megalichum, that's 40 years out of date.
Right.
And if you're seeing, sometimes you'll see for common plecos, you'll see rather than Pteroplecthes, you'll be like Glyptoteichthes or something, which is also a really old name. And then you'll see totally made up. I really like the made up scientific and common names, because some of them are just totally out there.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, even like you said, with scientific names, this still like some fish have two scientific names, like, when I have a customer, and generally like older customers, they'll say some kind of scientific name, and then I'm like, well, I've heard that before, but I think it's this fish. And then I say, well, I think it's known as this fish, and then they're like, no, it's this fish, but we're talking about the same fish.
It's like that with common names as well.
Yeah.
I find like where I moved area as well, common names completely change. Like copper tetra, I don't know the scientific name for them, but we called them, we call them copper tetra. Then when I moved, even like an hour away, they were all called silvertip tetra.
Right.
And like barla sharks as well are now called silver sharks. I think barla shark sounds a bit fancier, but
yeah,
that's what I like with common names. You can choose your own.
Yeah, true. That is true. All right, cool. Let's then move on to, I guess the next logical question is this, which I'll get in the chat. It always takes me 2 seconds. Oops. Here we go. How did you get into fish keeping? Like, where did it all start?
So I've always liked animals. I've never been able to have that many animals, I guess. So I've always had different rodents. We did have a pond, but I don't really count that as fish keeping, just having goldfish in the pond. And we had the cat. We had a bit of short hair. But actual fish keeping was I don't know if you have it in the Netherlands, but we had like church fetes, and someone was selling a fish tank. So that got my dad into fish keeping because he bought that. And then we chose some guppies for it in a totally uncycled tank. They didn't last. And then eventually when I was 10, I got allowed to have my own aquarium. So which is why I kind of judge when I started fish keeping from when I actually had fish, not from when my parents had fish, because I find it a bit unreliable otherwise. And then I decided, based on, Sarah does different booklets, and they had a South American biotope, and I really liked Brazil. So I was like, I want this Brazil biotope, but my tank's too small to have everything in it. So I was like, I'll have a pistogramma, because I really like cichlids at the time. So I had a pistogramma cacatoides, the dove cockatoo cichlid. And then I also got what is now Hoplosoma sturbi, or Corridor sturbi with them. And then also Microgeophagus rambesi, the ram cichlid. So I refuse to say German blue rams because they're not German line. They could have been back then, but I don't know.
Okay, yeah, cool. So it's funny because, I
No,
mean, now,
sorry.
I guess because now you don't, do you still keep any of like the dwarf cichlids because it's
Not
more,
anymore. I think discus kind of like, they're very similar personality wise, I think, to Pistogramma. They're not too aggressive. They've got their personality. They're kind of similar, I think. They fill that niche for me, so I don't feel any push to get any dwarf cichlids. I do get tempted by nice rams, but then I always think about the ones that I remember when I first kept fish, and they don't like appeal as much to me anymore. So I do like cichlids. It's just also space, and yeah, and they're so expensive these days.
yeah,
I paid
definitely.
£25 a pair, and that was kind of expensive.
Yeah, yeah. Like, I mean, any kind of, well, what it seems to me is like any kind of dwarf cichlid is just generally expensive, like
Yeah,
apistogrammas, you know, anything like that.
and they're
I,
getting to like £50 a pair. I've seen quite often, and I am
it's
not
it's
paying that.
insane. It's insane. I mean,
Yeah,
even I'm looking at the wholesale prices, and they're like sky high. Like you would want to pay that as a consumer and not as
yeah.
a business, as a shop. You know, it's like
And then like
crazy.
I find they're not as big anymore, not as hardy anymore. So I'm not as keen on getting them.
Right.
But I used to keep all sorts of different epistogram. I never really got too much into shell dwellers and stuff. I wanted to as a kid. Well, as like 10 to sort of 13, I wanted them, but I never
Yeah.
actually got any. And there's also so much more limiting on what else you can keep with them.
Yeah. True. Yeah. Um, I think it's well, what I so about the the dwarf cichlids. I actually got some interesting ones coming tomorrow, which are the Bolivian rams, right?
Yeah.
And they seem quite interesting to me because I think those are a bit less like inbred. I mean, I'm not sure, but they seem a bit more natural, I
Yeah, I
guess, in a
think
way.
they're still wild caught. You can still buy them from, is it either Colombia or Peru?
Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah, so yeah.
Mm.
They're interesting. I do like the dwarf cichlids still. It's just if I had the space, I might be tempted.
Yeah. All right, cool. We got quite a few questions in the chat, so we'll go through those. From BJD, could you tell us about how the sucker mouths have probably evolved?
I don't study much on fossils. Like just the sucker mouth itself.
I
If
think
it's like the
so.
sucker mouth itself, if you look at the closest relatives, you don't actually get them in captivity because they need very high oxygen. They don't do well on import because they're not going to have high oxygen on import, and they're carnivores. They're very similar to somewhat Synodontis in a way, so they rummage around feeding on invertebrates, but they kind of do have that almost suck mouth. They just don't suck. Other than that, for Loricariidae, like we do have phylogenetics on them, so a family tree. And so L95, which is the pinecone pseudorhynlepis, or the pinecone pleco, which is it's a large fish, sort of it actually swims around, so it acts very differently to a traditional pleco. Like the closest behaviour would be like some common plecos, where you see them hovering. And they're kind of one of the most early ones that you can find, like early branching off. But it's kind of a big topic on how they evolved, and we don't have that many fossils. I can say though that there was the African fossil found, which infers that Loricariidae or Plex came from Africa, and that's largely been discredited because it gives like 100 million years or something, or 90, saying a large amount of time where there's no Loricariidae. It's like, so it's kind of like there's no other things in the fossil record. But it's kind of, the sucker mouth is definitely like, there's someone in Germany studying natural soft tissues, which, because I prefer bones. It's just, they're easier and less smelly. But they definitely, no. He loves keyboards for some reason. But so, yeah, so the sucker mouths are partially for feeding as well. So they do use it to dislodge food. So it's probably, that's largely why there's that sucker mouth, but also to adhere to fast flow areas. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Cool. Then a question from Moose. Which came first, the pleco or the egg?
It'd have to be the egg, because then you need the egg to get to the pleco. But most catfish, I don't know whether any actually give live birth. Any catfish.
I'm not sure. Not sure.
But I think the earlier ones, if you're looking at eggs, most of them were likely not spawning in caves. Like, I think it's some of the earlier branch ones which haven't been bred in captivity do a bubble nest.
Okay.
And then you got like the whiptails and stuff, which some of them do it on the surface and some carry it.
Yeah. Isn't it like the hoplo catfish that make a
Yeah, I
bubble
think
nest?
similar to that. Because they're one that is pretty much similar in habitat, I think, and also can facultatively air breathe quite well. So
Right.
go up to surface, take a gulp, absorb it in the stomach.
Yeah. I'm just showing a picture on the stream now. Because I saw Nick from Keeping Fish Simple. He was like, or it was a video, and I don't know if he had them or somebody else, but they were talking about them, and they said like they're kind of like, you know, like a better fish, you know, a bubble nest breeder.
Yeah.
Which I found quite interesting.
Yeah, the hoplosternum, because for my undergraduate project, I did that group because I was like, I'm going to study all catfish, and then I realised I'm not very good at the Corridorus family. They all look quite similar. But those larger ones are really nice fishes.
Yeah.
I'd rather keep them, but most of them you can't really find in the trade. You can only really find that megalochus. If you're lucky, hoplosternum and dianema.
Right.
Which the common names don't really make a good distinction. I think dianema is the flagtail, hoplo, and
okay, yeah.
But they're nice fishes. They're built like tanks, so I was handling the specimens, which does make them a little bit more rigid.
Cool. Question from Rachel. What is Rebecca's cat's name?
So this is Zach. I've given him a proper, well, he's facing away now because he's possibly annoyed, but he's got a full name. So he's Zachariah Jacob Black. I've named him. So he's Zach Black, the black cat.
Okay.
Or
cool.
geriatric black cat because he's 15.
Wow. That's, well, I get, is that old for a cat? Well, quite
I don't
old.
know. I think it's meant to be geriatric years, but he's a rescue, so. And I always said, though, with animals like that, it's like the goldfish thing where, like, they could have replaced the cat and no one would ever know because it's a black cat. You could get another black cat. And
yeah, true. Yeah. Let's see. Are there any more questions? I'm just looking. Matt's asking, what are the first plecos from what fish they evolved? Like, are they ancient by any means? They look like dinosaurs to me.
They're not actually ancient. I think it's... So the actual time period would be early Miocene, late Oligocene, which is sort of age of mammals. kind of makes them as old as most mammal clades. So they're not actually as old as they look. They just look very similar to fishes like placoderms, which are now extinct, which is an old lineage that diverged earlier than like cartilaginous fish and stuff like that. The first plecos I don't think have names. It's just it's just Loricariidae SP sort of thing, because they haven't really always been identified to an actual clade. There are fossils, I think. So there's a fossil of Orion lepinae, which is that L95 group. I know. He just wants to go out now. 5 seconds. Oh,
Yeah.
there we go. Oh. It's good exercise for a cat. He always wants to go in and out.
And it's the same with a dog, really. But
yeah, but yeah. So the first ones, yeah. There's not really any name or like any. It's not like Archaeopteryx of birds, basically.
right. Okay.
Yeah. So, but we do have fossils of different groups, but also it's the people to identify the fossils. I don't think there's many paleontologists into plecos.
Yeah. Good point. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's getting people trained. Not many people are trained in taxonomy and morphology as much as they used to be.
Cool. Question from Mike. How many types of plecos / whiptails / L numbers do you currently keep for pleasure?
I don't actually count it. I have 2 species of the Baroncistrus, and then I have, I think, 4 or 5 Ancistrus species. I can list the names. I've got gold nugget and the mango magnum. So Baroncistrus anthellus and Baroncistrus chrysolamus. That's in that tank because they're big and bulky and act big and bulky. This one has a little bit more. This one does have, so it's got the 4 to 5 species of Ancistrus. It's also got Decicera picta, which is the butterfly pleco, the actual Loricariidae one, not the hillstream loach. I've also got Parancistrus L322, which doesn't have a common name. It just gets missold under or with peppermint plecos. It just looks completely different. It's like a very dark olive green. So no idea why people import them as the same thing. And also Lacincistrus L30 something. Might be just L30. But I think that's it. I always forget different fish I have, and then I see them and I'm like, oh, I forgot I had you. But that's catfish people. Like, if you have catfish, you're just going to expect never to see your fish. Depends on how they're feeling and the seasons and stuff. Like my Baroncistrus are all out at the moment because it might be spawning season. These guys, I think their spawning season's winter, so they're all in.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, that's the thing with plecos and things, like, especially some types, you just don't see them. Like, you put them in a tank and they disappear.
And they have to get used to you as well sometimes. Like when you first get them, they'll just always be in their cave. They don't want to come out. Whereas, like, especially if you have a desk where they are, or have something where you can keep a distance, you see them a lot more. But yeah, this room is a little bit tight, so I don't have anywhere to sort of casually sit. I have to be at my desk, sort of thing. But I do see quite a lot of behaviour. I kind of disturb them if I try and get a photo, because I kind of, for that tank, I have to kind of walk around and then they can see me.
Yeah. Right. Let's have a look. Moose got a question on the rams. Where did the German blue ram come from?
Well, the name kind of suggests it because it's Germany. The rams you're seeing in the shops are mostly or almost entirely from Asia, and likely had no connecting lineages to German blue rams. It's a bit like lines of dogs or anything like that, where you end up with things being named completely differently and not even connected with the original lineage. I guess somewhat a bit like, Tibetan terriers and Tibetan spaniels aren't actually related to what they're meant to, their name's worth is. But German blue ram, I think, is partially it sounds better. So people really like like it sells better than saying just Asian ram. Or at the time when I first saw like the transitions, they used to get sold as Euro ram. And I don't know whether there's any sort of partial confusion with the other butterfly ram, which because they used to be called the dove butterfly cichlid, which probably confuses them with that African one.
Yeah. It's an interesting one though, because I think generally any fish keeper, if you say German blue ram, they know what you mean. Like they know the type of fish what you mean.
Yeah.
Whereas there isn't really a other common name. At least not that I know.
Not anymore, I don't think. I don't think anyone is using anything else. Yeah, because otherwise, like, you don't see dove butterfly cichlid anymore, which is weird because I kind of like the name. It appeals a little bit more than just ram. And also people might not know that they're named after someone. So it kind of is a common name that might not make sense.
Yeah, good point. All right, let's have a look if there's any more. Stephen is asking if there is a Rebecca focus quiz today. Well, there's not today. There's no quiz today, but I have said in the past that what I might do, because my plan was to like have a guest, at least one guest on every month, like, so in a year I'll have 12 guests, but already failed that because in February we didn't have anybody, so yeah, failed that, but that was just mainly because I didn't even stream that much in February, to be honest with you. But what I did say is what I'll likely do is like then one week, have the actual guest on, and then the following week I would do like a quiz from like that live stream, so certain questions or whatever that were discussed here would then be in the quiz. I don't know, I find it quite a cool idea because then it means that people who were here and listened in, they actually get the benefit. So we might do that next week. Who knows? Let's see then. I don't know if there's any in the chat. What was the last film you watched, just so we can tailor quiz questions to that niche?
I don't think I've watched any films in a while. No. I've watched some like ones that I don't normally watch.
Yeah.
I don't even. So because I don't really like. I prefer documentaries these days. I don't know why. I just.
Yeah.
It's less sitting there and just ploughing through something. Like in the cinema, I know the last one I saw was Wolverine versus. Blimey, I should know that, but the latest X-Men, whatever Marvel one, that was okay.
Right.
But definitely watched movies since then. But I just think there's not as many good movies around anymore.
Yeah, true. I don't really watch any type of films or like I don't really have the Well, I have patience because, I keep fish, so you gotta have patience. But it's a different type of patience. Like to sit down and watch a film for 2 hours when I could in those 2 hours be doing other things. I'd rather be doing other things, And yeah, I just can't get myself to sit down for 2 hours and watch a film. Especially if
Yeah.
if it's like a bad like a not good film or not good
And they're
quality or whatever.
often like 3 hours these
Mm,
days.
I know they make them way too long.
I used to, when I didn't have my own sort of room, like with the animals and stuff, I used to sit and sort of work or do other things with a movie or a film or TV series in the background.
Yeah,
Not that I take anything in from them, it's just
no,
there. It's probably like
yeah,
most documentaries I watch. I don't remember them.
no. I mean, I guess I rather when I'm busy working on something like in the fish room, I'll just put a YouTube video on in the background, and just let that play and
I do
just
that now.
yeah,
Yeah. Maybe not at work so much, but
mm,
usually I have the radio on at work because it's just easier.
yeah, yeah. Here's a question: does Rebecca have any knowledge on goldfish?
I used to keep butterfly telescopes or butterfly globe eyes, and I've kept quite a few. They weren't ever my first fish, so I kind of approached them from a different perspective. So I kept goldfish probably from 2013 to 2021. So mostly fancies. So I've kept quite a few. I find them interesting. They're interesting from an evolutionary perspective, and also from if you're trying to or interested in just working with a fish, like manipulating how they look just on how you're caring for them. They're quite interesting regarding that. It's kind of like discus. You mess with lighting, and it changes how. If you have very dark lighting, they just
Hmm.
look terrible, or they pepper. Um, and goldfish kind of the same and work with different lighting to change how they look because I had mostly the black ones or the pandas. So messing with lighting to see how you're going to hold that black coloration and also a lot of water changes.
Mm,
Like
yeah,
because are relaxing compared to how many I do with goldfish.
yeah, mm. Yeah. I mean, I've had. Well, mainly the goldfish I've had are like, in ponds and stuff, just common goldfish. But
They look better outside and their shape
yeah,
develops better.
mm,
The seasons I think are a big thing. So
yeah,
only have them again if I can have them outside,
yeah,
which I can, but
yeah,
it's a bit of a risk with wildlife and stuff. Not that we have anything too out there.
yeah. I mean, I still think, most goldfish, except for the fancies, but most goldfish, they're meant for ponds and for outdoors and for bigger, because like,
Even the fancies are. If you look at the
yeah,
history of them, like
mm,
hence why Japanese ones are top view. You don't have an aquarium that you just. There's
yeah,
no point having glass if you're only meant to look down.
yeah, yeah,
It's just I think people get a little bit worried. Hence why we don't often give our fish as much seasonal variation because we worry, oh no, they're going to stress out and just belly up.
mm,
But
yeah,
and also they look a little bit more delicate. But even with discus, like they're not the easiest fish, I don't think, for beginners. But they're definitely more tolerant than they look, especially to
yeah,
flow. They can definitely withstand a good current, withstand a good current.
yeah, yeah. All right, cool. Question from Steven then. Wait, I need to move this up because otherwise you guys, well, it's still big, like you can't really see. But I'll just say the question and then I'll get rid of it. Stephen asks if you noticed any significant differences in the fish keeper culture in the US when you were here last.
So I think the big one is conventions out there are massive. I think was it Vivarium in Germany?
No, in the Netherlands.
Was it Netherlands?
Bavaria's,
Yeah.
yeah.
It would
Yeah.
have been on a similar scale to that in the US. We don't have anything that big in the UK. We haven't had anything that big since 2012. So it's definitely a very different environment with that. You have fishes we can't get. You have glowfishes in America, same as Netherlands. I think we can't have GMOs. So that's the first time I ever saw them. I didn't really take notice of pricing. I would say Repashi's cheaper because it's now obscene money here, and quite difficult to get. I would say the brands are very different. Obviously, you can just notice online that in America everyone has Hobbs or what's it, hang on the backs.
Hangbacks, yeah.
Whereas in the UK, it's pretty tricky to find them. We don't have many other than Seachem, Seachem. And then I think it's a different style of fish keeping in general. It's quite difficult to put a finger to it because I think in the UK we have a style that is kind of changing a bit, and I can never put my finger on what it is. But we also have a lot more when it comes to like serious sides of the hobby and conventions, events that are a lot more focused. There's a lot more transfer with Europe opposed to America. So when you go to like catfish or cichlid conventions here, then it's a little bit different. Sometimes I think, yeah, the UK ones are definitely very small, so you see everyone. There's no the convention hall here in the UK is also where you're eating dinner with a sit down meal. It's also where you're socializing, unless you're going to go out for a smoke or something, or go to the bar. Everything's in one space, so you can't escape. There's no sales room. It's actually in the convention hall. It's just a different style of fish keeping, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. I think there's definitely, like, I guess the UK, you could call that also, like, it's kind of the same as Europe, I think, generally.
Yeah.
There might be a few differences, but generally you could say, like, Europe versus US, there's definitely some bigger differences.
Yeah. And the
and I
fishes
think,
we keep as well.
yeah, true.
Like, I think there's note of what fishes would sell in Europe and what would sell in the US. I think Americans have access to bigger tanks for cheaper as well.
Yeah, definitely. I'm always jealous of the what's it in the PetSmart, the
Yeah.
dollar per gallon sale or something. Like,
Yeah, because imagine that.
I know. Like they would pay for a 20-gallon tank, which is like an 80-liter tank, they would pay $20, right? Whereas if I were to buy a tank like that, I'm at least paying $50, 60, maybe more,
I'll say in the UK even more, maybe a 25-litre to 30-litre could be £100.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, it's all branded now. We don't have just tanks.
Yeah, okay.
They
Yeah.
have to come with things that you don't need or want.
Yeah. Okay.
So then when I look at, because I want to get another 200 to 300 litre, like I'm going to have to go second hand because for anything over sort of even 200 litres, you're looking at £500.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's even worse if you go over 500 because no one even stocks 500-litre tanks.
Yeah.
You just
true.
got Joule.
I know. Yeah, that's the thing, and like definitely the tanks are more expensive here for sure.
5 seconds, I think. Oh, it's Zach. Oh, okay, I thought he was trying to get in. Zach! Sorry, I'm not sure whether the cat wants to come in or not.
That's fine.
Zach! No.
Let's have a look.
He's probably undecided. It's typical.
Yeah. Let's see if there are any questions. I mean, I got questions like my own questions prepared, but
Yeah.
there's so many in the chat that, I guess we can go through those. Question from Tim. I need to switch this over, otherwise anything. There we go. No, this is the one. Do bristlenose plecos change color according to substrate or background? I have bristlenose plecos that seem like they're trying to change color according to substrate color. Is this a thing?
Yeah, it's like most fishes. Discus will do it. They're kind of like the lighter the substrate, the lighter the background, the paler they normally go, or they go patchy. Sometimes they can go darker. It's never permanent. It's pretty much they're just responding to blend in. Sometimes a bit of stress. There are other color changes. If your fish is going gold almost, like it's slowly transferring gold, that's entirely different. It's usually temporary as well, but on a much slower time scale, so like weeks. So if you see a goldfish a gold pleco that isn't the common bristlenose or any that come in albino or leucistic or anything like that, then they're probably going to change quite quickly, apart from the expensive ones.
Yeah. I mean, I noticed my albino bristlenoses that they sometimes can be a bit. Well, I noticed it with the younger ones, not so much the older ones. Like my adults, they don't really tend to change that much, but definitely some younger ones, I sometimes see some that are like all of a sudden really pale, and then other
Yeah.
times they'll be really deep gold color like.
I don't know that much about coloration, but I don't know if red enhancers can change it, because I think the actual albinism is only melanin.
Right.
So you might be able to work on them in xanthophores, I think. So that's the red coloration, the gold coloration. So any red enhancing ingredient, whether it be paprika, xanthin, so algae.
Right.
There's quite a few different ones that you can kind of look up and add to a diet. Not a dry diet so easily, but most should contain like tetra, which there's a red enhancing.
Yeah.
That's why you shouldn't give them to yellow discus or white discus.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Then we got a question here from Martin. Does Rebecca have a dream fish that she is yet to keep?
I have a lot of fish I like and I would like to keep. I'm not in any rush for any. Like Ancistrus ranunculus is my favourite species, and I've got them. I've got plenty preserved, and I've got a picture of one behind me. And I've also got Stephen P. did some artwork of one.
Right.
So I kind of, there's fishes I'd love to see and would like to try. They're not ones that you really see in captivity, so it's something that when I see them, I'll have to get them. Whether it be some of the Asian and African species that are similar to Loricariidae or plecos, or I do really like, so Otocinclus have some larger relatives that are like that big, and I'd really like to keep them. They don't look much like Otocinclus. They look more like a Chaetostoma rubbernose or bulldog pleco, but they're big. I just don't think they're legal to export because they're from Brazil and tricky and expensive if they're from Brazil.
Yeah. All right. Let's see. I don't think there's any more in the chat so far. No, I don't think there's any there. Okay, then I'll move on with some of mine. Let's see. We'll do. I guess this is an easy one here. Which I'll get in here. Which is how many tanks do you currently have?
I've got 2 at home. Hopefully, to have a third, I just need a way of fitting in the car, hiring a van or something. Because my car's oddly like its length is too short for the size I want.
Mm.
But it's also not. It's got weird. And then at the university, I've got 4 main tanks and then some other ones for holding fishes. It depends. Like, because I also, one of the fishes I work with is Plecos, and I don't have any plans to want to breed them, or I kind of don't want them to grow too rapidly as well. So I don't want to put them in my sort of anything. I put them more in the holding tanks than anything. Not that I'm saying that size of tank keeps them small. It's just I do more water changes. I do a lot more with them there. But so I have those other tanks I've got. It depends on what I'm doing at the moment to who's in what. So I have a tank that mainly focuses on the planet Loricariidae. So this is the spoon-faced whiptail. They don't. They're the one whiptail catfish I haven't spawned that I've worked with. So they're my aim, and they have their own tank. I think I've got a pair, and they sort of mouth spawn. So that, and then I have a group of Farlowella. They breed like rabbits, so they're in holding tanks and everywhere almost at the moment.
Right.
I've lost track of which are the original pair, I think, which are the original wild caught ones, which is a bit annoying. Also, the red run Loricariidae, they've got their own. But yeah, so I've got more at the university. It's just renting in the UK is quite limited on space, and quite a few aren't the biggest fan of aquariums or pets in general.
Yeah, good point. But so the ones at the university, those are like yours. Like nobody else touches them.
Yeah, no one else studies them. No one else touches them. They're kind of,
Right.
they're out of my funding. They're out of my research. I'm the only one that does catfish as well. So other than maybe some of the Africans, then yeah, so they're kind of mine. I water change them. I check on them. I feed them. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Cool. Let's see. Did we have any questions in the chat pop in? I'm just looking. Nope. Somebody's asking, can we see the plecos? I don't know. I think that's quite difficult.
It'd be a bit tricky. Normally, I have to sort of corner them, and this laptop's resolution is not the greatest.
I would say if you want to see Rebecca's plecos, check out the channel, and you can see them there for sure. So do that. I don't know if somebody can probably pop a link in. Must be somebody there who can do that. So yeah. That's a question for me. What's the biggest pleco I own? Well, biggest pleco I own is a bristlenose pleco. I only keep bristlenose plecos, to be honest with you. Although I do have what are they called? The pecocolita?
Picoltia is how I say it. Yeah. Oh, the Compta. The nice.
The L134.
Yeah, the Picoltia the Compta. Yeah, the nice little one.
I think. Is that? I'm never sure. I'm not even sure. I think that's the one.
They come in you get different patterns, but they've got quite distinctive markings. If you get certain localities, you could get more dotted ones rather than the strict lines.
Right.
They're nicer than Hypans, I think, because they actually hold their colour a little bit better.
Yeah, they got some nice colour. They're like a reddish, orangish.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay. Is it not Panaculus then?
I'm not sure. Maybe if I could probably look up, because I know I got them from the wholesaler, so I can probably find them there. At least if they have them in stock, then they would be on the. Oh no, it's the so it's the L103, the Picoltia. Yeah.
Is that like breakfast? Has it got spots on the head?
Not really spot, more like stripe. Well, it's kind of stripy.
Oh, I see. So is that's a Vitita or no? Oh, it is Vitita, I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
yeah. They're nice though. They're distinctively marked.
Yeah.
Although
I got.
yeah, Planet Catfish just says they're separate. They're in. Oh, so many ads on the website now. They're undescribed. I'll just say they're Vitita anyway. But yeah.
Yeah. So they're quite interesting. I got 4 of them. Originally, I bought them for the shop, but then they weren't really selling. So then I thought, well, I find them quite cool. I'll just throw them in my jewel. So now they just live in there. And I actually, to be honest, I see them quite often. Like, yeah, I'll just see them out and about, which is pretty cool.
It's an achievement if you manage to spawn them as well, because Picoltia, other than Compta, they can be quite seasonal, so a little bit more of a challenge.
Right. Yeah.
And Hypensistrus is easy to spawn, so it's like very different.
Right. They weren't, to be honest, they were one of the cheaper like they weren't that expensive. So that's
I think price doesn't mean much. Then like you can get really beautiful species for very little money and very expensive ones which aren't that pretty or distinctively marked.
Yeah. I definitely want to get some. I mean, I've been saying this for years now, but I definitely want to get some more different types of plecos. Not quite sure what types, because I mean, there's so many out there, you know. Definitely one I do want to get is the zebra pleco, of course.
Loads of people are breeding them in the Netherlands anyway.
They are
Germany.
Yeah. Yeah, if I look on the we have like what's called Marktplaats. It's like a Facebook marketplace, but then better than Facebook marketplace, if you know what I mean. And if you look them up there, you can find at least quite a few people selling them, you know. And then some people, they actually sell their breeding groups, like their whole breeding group.
Yeah, a lot of people give up before like they're mature.
Yeah.
Or they just give up the hobby altogether.
Yeah. So I don't know if I then would, rather buy little ones and grow them out myself, or get the breeding group. But then, I guess the risk you take with the breeding group is they could be quite old.
I don't think they're old is a problem for them. No? I think they might not spawn on certain diets. So a lot of people are having issues where they say they're too old at 6 to 15 years old. And these fishes, like there's one person who has a wild caught specimen from, and it's over 20 years old. And it's still not going anywhere. Like mammals are kind of like where you get menopause, so they do stop spawning, but males shouldn't do that. So I think it's kind of like, as long as they're on the right diet, they should be fine. The only issue is you might also get all male groups. Yeah. And it's so expensive to get females.
Yeah. So that's the thing.
Because if you're buying them from a store and they're adults, they're probably all males.
Right. Yeah. Could be. So that's the thing.
No one's going to want to exchange.
No.
Either.
No. So that's the thing. Like, I'm thinking like, also it's a bit cheaper to get young ones, because, well, they're not a breeding group, A breeding group is generally a bit more expensive. So to get young ones would be a bit cheaper, and B, I can like grow them out and, be quite fun to see that. But then I'm also thinking, like, if I do want to get them, I better get them, well, relatively soon, because of course they take about 2-3 years to properly mature, for breeding at least.
Yeah, time goes
So
quite quickly though, stuff like that.
yeah, okay, but still, it's still like,
Yeah, they
if
are
I
kind
have
of.
the idea now, and I think like, oh yeah, I want to do that in the future, but then I think in like 3 years' time, okay, I'm actually going to get them in 3 years' time. Then I still have to wait another 3 years. Whereas if I get them now and just put them in a tank, like passively, don't really, well, I look at them, but just kind of forget about them. Then in 3 years' time, I'll be like, oh hey, I still got these guys, and I can do something with. So
Yeah, I think you're a bit. It's kind of one of those fish you have to leave. There's also evidence that a lot of people that do captive breed and then do F1 breeding and stuff like that, theirs do breed younger. But then most type and citrus ever we have are going to be captive bred. There's almost none that are wild caught unless they're
yeah,
smuggled
yeah,
by the Colombia or Peru.
yeah.
So I think a few were coming in, maybe I think last year or something, people were saying.
Yeah. Question from Moose. Can Rebecca speak on the common belief that hypancistras need a mostly carnivorous diet?
So I've actually had to recently go through all of my diet records. So I can definitely say I've double checked this. Their diet is almost entirely algae, and some of them will say algae, mild bit of crustaceans or insect larvae, and then it will say a few seeds found that are broken down. Yeah, so it's pretty much algae. I don't know where the myth came from either. I assume it's similar to when people say gold nuggets are carnivores. So it's kind of like this idea that anything fancy looking must be a carnivore. It might be an old myth about because protein, people think that all protein's the same protein. And or maybe older diets, people did struggle to keep them on old-fashioned diets.
Right.
So it's a long sort of myth, but there's a lot of myths about different fish diets, and sometimes I don't think we know enough to say about what's a good breeding diet as well, and what's a good long-term health diet, because I think the long-term health diet is very different from what we're feeding a lot of our fishes. But then it's like I won't really argue against some things. It's like beef heart with discus. There's plenty of evidence it produces large fish, colourful fish, but it's very different from the wild diet. And there's no evidence to say about how long they live on either.
No.
And there's also no natural diets that you could buy for them, really.
No. Yeah, I guess that's the thing. And
will they eat it as well?
Yeah,
Because if you put in a gel diet, most discus just look at you like you're crazy.
I know. That's the thing, and that's the issue I've had with discus for a long time, for as long as I've kept them, really, is like they get so fussy. Or I don't know if it's me, it might be me, but whenever I have discus, they kind of fussy discus. Like they'll only want to eat one particular thing. And then even if I give them multiple things, they'll only want to eat the one particular thing. And it's like...
Some suppliers seem worse. It's been a lot easier with my Asians and even the wilds than when I had Stenker.
Right.
But yeah, so I kind of focus a lot more on dry diets of them a lot more now, and then give them a diversity of frozen.
Yeah, okay.
But it's a difficult one. The only dry diet I think is really great is the so Fish Science in the UK did a discus diet, and I was part of the trials, and I can say it definitely does put the weight on the fish, does get good colour. But then they stopped selling it because I was only part of the trial, so I never had any of the later ones.
Mm.
So, and that was really good because it kind of like, it wasn't one that was wasteful, because Tetra's great. It's quite wasteful. They do leave quite a bit.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I guess, well, my discus seem to, they really enjoy frozen food and not so much the dry pellets
Yeah.
or, well, flake food, not at all. Like, I actually, this morning I tried because I had a new thing of flake food, so the flakes are a bit bigger instead of tiny, you know. So I thought with a bigger flake, surely, you know, it's big. And what they did, I put it in, they looked at it, and they kind of went for it because they thought, oh, this is our frozen food because it's bigger. And then when they realize it's flake food, they just spit it out, and they're like, no, I'm not having that.
Yeah, because they can process things. I think a lot of people think that when they're eating something, they're just grabbing it and swallowing it whole.
Hmm.
Although discus aren't that great at chewing, they have
No.
very small secondary jaws,
Yeah.
opposed to some cichlids, which you can see them properly working at something.
Yeah.
I'm just going to quickly grab something. I'll be like 1 minute.
Yeah, all right. All right. Okay, I'm just looking through chat. By the way, I can see you guys' chat, so I see it, but I'm not really. It's a bit different than when I'm streaming on my own, because then I can actively respond. I'll respond a bit in chat, but I do read all the comments, so don't feel like I'm like ignoring you guys. But it's a bit more difficult when we're doing an interview style and questions, and so all good. All right. So let's see. Mike had a question.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on genetically modified fish after seeing them? There are rumors of a glow bristlenose being released this year or next year.
I don't mind GM myself. Like, I know plenty of people that work with them. I've done, like, during my undergrad lab experiments with them, so I'm fine with that. I think they're not going to enter the wild because it's hardly like we're going to sort of export them out to where their wild habitat is and then just dump them on purpose.
No.
They're not for me. They're a little too brightly coloured, a little too boldly coloured. They're kind of interesting, but I wouldn't own them myself. I just have no real other opinion on them. I think people get a lot particularly worked up when it comes to GM, because we see a lot of things about how awful GM is, but it's not that bad. It's just not for me. So I don't mind them. They were kind of cool to see. I preferred the Medaka, the rice fish. They were even cooler to see, like, because they just stand up. They're much more subtle in their colours.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's still interesting to see that the EU don't allow genetically modified organisms, I think that's interesting, that the EU doesn't allow that. So
yeah, I think there's also the worry it's actually owned, like the genes and stuff are owned by someone, hence why it costs so much more, and you're not technically able to breed them, or shouldn't be. Like, so you don't really ever own the animal, or you own the individual, but you can't breed them. Or so. It's kind of a bit. There's uses for them, but it's kind of the way that corporations probably have treated it.
Yeah, okay.
It's a bit like Monsanto with crops, which is like the classic pesticide, I think, resistant crops or something.
Okay.
It's not my field at all.
No. Well, I know that Mike is breeding a bunch of them. Like I think he
Yeah.
said 500,000 or something. He's breeding a
Probably
500,000 of them
Canada's probably
for a
different. I don't
wholesaler.
know how well like patents go abroad.
Yeah. Okay.
And it's
Yeah.
possibly also the legislation is like, it's a bit like, I always think of defamation. Like, I think in America, if you, defamation laws, like if you talk badly about someone, they can sue you.
Mm,
Whereas in other countries, it's not quite the same.
no.
So I don't know if that kind of overpowers it.
Yeah.
But I don't
Could
see
be.
a glow in the dark common bristle, or just bristlenose ancistrus or whatever. Would it sell? I don't know. And also, wouldn't it bother the fish if it could see itself glowing in its own cave?
I know that I was just thinking about that. Like, with the other fish, they're out and about, but like a bristlenose, if it's in its cave and it glows. I know.
It's a bit like when people give glass tunnels to everything. It's like they know they're in a glass tunnel. They can see through it.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's why yeah. I don't think I can't imagine them spawning that well either. You'd have to get a male and a female. I doubt they'd sell both males and females.
Hmm. Yeah. True.
There's
I
easy
mean,
ways of sterilizing them as well.
yeah. And I guess that's happened, the sterilizing with like, isn't it with like a lot of neon tetras and fish like that? Like
Yeah.
I don't know, I've heard about, or some kind of hormone. They use some kind of hormone to like not let them breed, like because
Oh, yeah.
because I've heard
Yeah, if you
from,
flood with like testosterone or estrogen, I think you
yeah,
can
could be,
disrupt. Because that's what they do with trout. So if you don't want male trout because they taste foul, so but you still want to breed them and you don't want to risk getting any males, so you add testosterone to female trout, and then the female develops testes, can't go
yeah,
anywhere, and they just literally, that's what you spawn your females with, so you get entirely XX. I assume it's XX, might not be, but you
hmm,
get basically all females,
okay,
and you, because you can't sell the males.
yeah,
But then they haven't done it with other animals, I guess. There might be, but then other animals are a little bit more, probably more complicated.
yeah, could be. Um, let's have a look. I think in chat, anything? Nope, nope, nope. Nothing here. It's just people chatting amongst themselves, which is fine, of course. Nothing here, nothing here, nothing here. Rebecca, have you been on expeditions abroad?
No, not fish ones. So for fish expeditions, I want to go also for scientific purposes, which you think wouldn't be that bad to actually be able to do. Aquarium permit's fine. Most countries allow it. You can take out whatever you want for aquarium purposes. It's fine. There's a few countries that restrict it. You need your licenses, your paperwork, but it's pretty easy to do. Science is entirely different. So permits, it's find out what permits you need. Actually getting the permit, some countries are really tricky with that. And that doesn't even have to be bringing the fish out. It can even just be putting a thermometer in the water and then publishing it. So no, I've been to different countries. Obviously, I've been to the USA, I've been to Netherlands, I've been to France, but all on holidays. I've been to Brazil, even like Sao Paulo state, or yeah, it would be a state, but I'm never for collecting fishes or anything scientific. I'd like to go out there. It's just permits and work out how to do it. certain South American countries seem easier. Certain African countries are easier. It depends what I want to do when I finish my PhD in a year and a half ish. Then I'll have
Right.
to apply postdocs and look at what I can do.
Yeah. I definitely, um, I definitely someday want to go out to probably South America because most of the fish there are the ones I like the most. Like, you know.
Yeah.
Um,
Peru's easy. There for aquarium stuff. If you don't want to do anything scientific, you can go with Go Wild Peru. So that's in Fuller, and they do collecting up in the mountains, sort of lowlands as well. Different corridorus groups, and also the knife fishes, loricariidae, whatever people are interested in.
right. That seems interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, and also they look at sometimes the birds as well and orchids and stuff, but it
Yeah.
depends on who's going to what they collect and what they look at.
I mean, in general, the Amazon, of course, is beautiful. Like, if you can see how it really is. I mean, I know with all
Yeah,
the pollution and the destruction and things, it's
Peru
different.
might be better. I do
Oh.
know like Cheese Creek is this one which has this Cheese Creek ancestors, and also I think a few corridors came from there, and I think that either got dried up or something. And also pollution, there's other sorts, like the famous Corridors Live on Gravel video, which when you ask, it was builder's rubble, not
Mm,
they live on gravel, that someone just dumped stuff there. But there's so much change in many countries. Like most of our waterways aren't natural. We put
mm.
weirs in there, we flatten them. I guess bridges and stuff will affect things. You put dams,
Yeah.
like all of that has impacted what freshwater fishes there are, like lamprey. I assume you have lamprey in the Netherlands.
Uh,
And European eel.
Probably. I'm not that good on like fish here. Like I, like you know.
Yeah, they're
Um.
very migratory, so they will travel. Lamprey, I'm not sure if they travel in marine, they spawn in marine or fresh, but both will travel up and down
Mm,
the river. They need to get out the river to the sea and then back in. There are some freshwater lamprey. They're the ones that suck a mouth onto things. The big US American sea lamprey.
right. Okay. I
Um,
mean,
but we get sea lamprey, I think here. I've never seen them. I've never been lucky enough to.
mm, I don't know. I'm just looking it up. Another. Oops. It says not in the Netherlands in general. So no, I don't think they're not in
Okay.
Netherlands. No.
Yeah, it's
Looks
just
like
yeah. South America is no different from any other country with how much we've altered freshwater. But I think there's now a reasonable movement behind less pollution.
yeah.
Like especially here, where people are wanting to swim in the water, and if you're getting ill after swimming in the water, it's a massive issue. South America also has mining. Uh, I think maybe gold, but other precious minerals come from South America, and that's polluting a lot of rivers. Um, and you're also getting a lot of people are noticing really weirdly coloured fishes coming in, and it seems to be pollution caused. Like whether they've got gold coloration or they've gone blue.
Right.
Uh, that's kind of appearing. But yeah, it's a tricky thing. There's also other things how we impact it, like where does our sand come from?
Mm,
It's not from a desert; it's probably from a riverside. And
yeah.
Asia or something.
Yeah. Yeah. True. True.
It's why, yeah.
Hmm. Um. Let's see. Mike says Glowbrand is covered by a patent, but mine were outcrossed with off-brand glow from Thailand. They only glow under black light, not in the dark. Okay.
Doesn't a lot glow under black light though? Because I've been in clubs that have black light and like my hair and everything glows. So is it the same? Like, would an albino fish just glow in black light?
I'm not sure. Maybe Mike has an answer on that. I'm not sure, but
Because I know Glowfish also sells albino bristlenoses.
right.
To be glow bristlenoses, they're just albinos, and they clearly state it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I don't know. It's an interesting one. The whole glowfish, and like, he's outcrossed him with a off-brand glowfish from Thailand. Like what? What is that? Like, yeah.
It makes me think of like clothing, like designer clothing versus the
like the
dodgy one.
Yeah, like the fake, or like yeah. That's what it seems like a bit.
I think the Thailand ones and Asian ones have appeared in the UK and probably the EU occasionally. Because I believe if you get certain import lists, they will include things that are legal to keep where you are. Like, I assume maybe Wells catfish, Silurus glanis and stuff like that.
Right.
Then sometimes it's difficult to keep track, I guess, of the legislation. Especially our Silurus glanis and some of the different fishes are on the not on the UK's positive list, and that finding the positive list is a drama. And then actually using it is all by genus name. So unless you can use genera, then you're stuck.
Right.
I don't know who updates it though.
Yeah. Question from Rachel: are any plecos species endangered in the wild? They seem pretty plentiful in the hobby, at least.
A lot are. So Hypancistris zebra definitely is. Flash plecos are listed on the IUCN red list. So Pinacus albivermis L204. They're listed, I think, as vulnerable, but most aren't assessed. There's a really low track record with assessing Loricariidae and also assessing anything South American, anything neotropical. So we don't really know. So what we have to go by is what the scientists in those countries are saying. And there's quite a few that are. Some are what's known as endemic, so only found from a very small area. Others are found from a wider area and probably not. It's a bit like Hypostomus luteus, which was over £1,000 at one point. That was extremely common in the world. The gold nugget, Balancistris xanthellus, is extremely common in the world, but not all are. It really depends. But quite a lot are threatened, or they'll just be threatened in general just by their habitats and stuff like that. But also, I know it stops people wanting to keep them, or it promotes keeping them. Sometimes by keeping them, you're creating an awareness that they exist, because how would we know these fishes exist if we didn't keep them? And also supporting local people. It's kind of a bit of a complex topic, but then you also get the issues of smuggling. So Hypancistris zebra is often smuggled. You also get some of the really striking corridors or Hoplosoma now. So that's like L CW111, which is a white corridor with bold black spots and a lovely tall dorsal fin. It used to be really expensive. I think £500 maybe a fish. Now you can get 50. In the US, they're a lot more. I think they're maybe $250 maybe.
Oh, yeah. I just looked them up. They look pretty cool. They look
Yeah.
like a Julii mixed with a kind of a mix of like all the species, to be honest with you. Like
they're lovely fish, but yeah, so that causing it. I think people were worried about smuggling, and then people managed to spawn them really easily.
Right.
There's also like Corridorus hasfatus, or Hephatus, which is a Greek name, and they're one I think they're very concerned about smuggling. So with Loricariidae, it's a lot more tricky to.
I'm just looking here. I guess this is a Australian site, and they're selling them for 200 Australian dollars, which I guess is, what is that? That is about 116 euros. So it's definitely less euros, but still, you know.
I think also the CARES lists aren't very reliable on Loricariidae of what's threatened or not, because you might look on the CARES website and see all these fish listed. Doesn't mean they're threatened. Some of those Loricariidae, it's just their habitat is threatened. They probably would. They seem to be doing fine so far.
Yeah.
Just depends how adaptable they are in general.
Yeah. I'm just looking here on. So this is a UK site. They go for £110. So
yeah, that will be so. So the £50 is from a society. So the people in the catfish study group,
right,
read different fishes, and the prices will possibly be a lot lower than you're going to get from a shop.
Yeah.
Also, it's the idea that if you breed things, you kind of want to spread them around in the hobby rather than them just being expensive for everyone.
Yeah. Good point.
Which is why you probably see Hypancistrus as more expensive, because they're not as much of a catfish enthusiast fish. I don't know as many people keeping them. Because what people want is something unusual. And like when we talk about like charming fishes, it's kind of this often brown fish and maybe some smaller distinctive markings. It's not a brightly coloured fish often. There's a few Hypancistrus people who have the L236 super whites.
Yeah. Mike got a few of those the other day.
Yeah, he's got a yellow one as well, isn't it?
Well, I think one of them looks. I don't know if that it did look kind of yellow, but I don't know if it is actually yellow or if it was just.
Should be able to outbreed it, like outcross it, because there was a scientific paper. They've got a species name now. So they're Hypancistrus sodali, which is the same species as L66 and L333, which is a cheaper fish. So that caused a lot of drama because people have money in some of them. And by breeding them, they have money in that, I think. So it caused so much drama and people saying, oh, they look different. But if you talk to people that breed them, you get so much variation. If you breed two together, you get ones that look like one, ones that look like the other. But I think with super whites, they're captive bred enough. I've heard rumours of hybridization that you're kind of getting, rather than with the wilds, where you're getting like a wolf. With the domestics, you're getting a dog. So you're kind of getting a kind of different fish.
Right. Right, I don't think there's any more questions. I guess Mike said albino fish just look bluish under black light. I have regular albino
Yeah.
Cory and glow Cory together. Okay.
So maybe they glow slightly.
Yeah.
Off-brand glow.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool. All right. So since we're at the bottom of the chat, I'll continue with my own questions that I prepared because we only had done 3 of them, I think. I guess some of them I can skip because we kind of already done them. Like some of these of like, what fish species do you focus on in your studies? Well, we've already kind of answered that, haven't we? So, that's not very interesting. I guess this is maybe an interesting one. We kind of talked about it maybe a little bit. What is this? The 4th question, I think, something like that. Let me get this in. How did you? So I guess more with this question, like, how did you end up being a fish biologist? Like, what was the road leading up? Because, like I think we discussed, there's not really a study of I'm going to study fish and that's what I'm going to do. Like, there must be something before that, right? So what's that?
Yeah.
What does that road look like?
Like, why I chose fish is just being passionate about fishes. They're what I wanted to study. So I knew I wanted to be a zoologist. Like, first, everyone goes to, do you want to do veterinary? And not really in the end. So I just wanted to be a zoologist. It was just finding out what. There's some very good TV shows at the time which showed people going on expeditions to, like, they were collecting things, and that looked really interesting to me. And then, so actually getting there, so our education system is kind of different. Some countries, we have school from, till 16, and then you choose your choices. And at my time, it was optional. Now it's not. That's kind of regardless anyway. So I chose. I did do quite a few art things to begin with, and then I was like, I just want to focus on the science. I can't write about people's artwork because that's pointless. So I went for biology, environmental studies, and geography, which I am terrible at geography, but I still managed to get an A solidly. Have no idea how. So then because a lot of people think you have to go down marine biology to study fishes. I don't have any interest in marine. So I just went for general biology. And that, I think, gives a bigger, broader picture of biology, the background, understanding. I didn't have to do any oceanography. So maybe less about the habitats, moving away more from ecology, I guess, or traditional ecology where the habitats matter a lot more. And then I just focused on what I enjoyed. I was kind of weighing up whether it was the reproductive biology of fishes, because that's really interesting, I think. Particularly, there's a lot of hermaphroditic fishes that just have very unusual life histories, like killifishes or the mangrove killifish. And then it was either that or taxonomy. And I thought, I don't want to sit in a lab and look at cells all day. So I was like, I'll go for taxonomy and evolution because I look at more specimens. There's more different things. It's different every day. So I just did modules in what part of it I found interesting. So evolution, developmental biology, and physiology, and also any fish modules I could find. Because doing biology, it meant I had less compulsory modules. Whereas if you do zoology, you have to do like behaviour or anything like that. And that would drive me mad. And marine biology had even more compulsory modules. So I got to choose. Sometimes I'd do like 2 modules from different courses every semester. So I did fish biology modules from geography, strangely. They had quite a few there. And also any of the fish biology ones that were in the marine biology degree. So I ended up doing more fish modules than in the marine biologists as well.
Right.
So yeah, and then it's just applying for like masters, and a master's is kind of where you specialize in what you're interested in. So you don't really choose a group of animals or a group of species. You just choose what interests them about you, and what interests you about them, and then that sort of thing. So you can kind of focus more on that. So I did biosystematics, which is evolution, phylogenetics, taxonomy, stuff like that. And then that's why I started really getting into Loricariidae evolution. Like I always wanted to keep them, and I enjoyed keeping them and studying them. It's just focusing more on how, so more on like the actual biology of them. And I ended up focusing maybe a bit too much. I did do one project though on corals, which I've never been enthusiastic about corals, and it confirmed it even more because it was genetics, so they don't even move anyway in genetics because they're just there.
Yeah, that's interesting. It's funny because a lot of people actually, even with me, like, because, I'm in my final year of school and I'll be finished soon. You know, people always talk about, oh, what are you going to do next? What is your next study? And like, even with customers, because, well, they see I'm young, and then they ask what kind of school or education do you do? And I say this and this. And they're like, oh, what are you going to do after that? And then I'll hold my little story, and then they'll say, well, why don't you like study marine biology or, this and this? And I'm like, well, first things first, I keep freshwater fish. I don't really care about the salt. Well, I do. Well, I like to look at them. Like, they're pretty cool looking.
Yeah.
I've never kept them, so I don't know anything about marine. And there's definitely differences between marine and freshwater, So I'm like, all these people say, oh, you should do marine biology. You should do marine biology. I'm like, well, I don't know.
Yeah, marine biology is so much of a broader topic as well. So mine would be studying fishes. And yeah, it's kind of one of those things. I think freshwater is just entirely different. You probably won't even study anything to do with freshwater if you do marine biology. I think it does depend where you go. And also husbandry. In the UK, very few biology degrees teach husbandry. Like, it's an entirely different career course. I taught it for a bit. So they do their own degrees. You don't always need a degree. And it kind of like, it's a difficult one because like for working in a zoo, they ask for a biology degree often, not an animal husbandry degree, but I think it crosses over. But I know in America you could be taught aquaculture.
Right.
So you'll be working with aquariums while studying them. So I know someone, she was studying mantis shrimp, and she had a background in actual keeping aquariums from her degree in America.
Okay.
Whereas here, like, I'm the only one that I think, actually no, it was one other person that kept fish on anything biological sciences.
Right. Okay. That's interesting, because I think that kind of ties into my other question, which kind of has to do with this, which is this one here. Let's see. Like, is it easy to become a fish biologist? And then second question with that is like, are there any other students doing the same thing?
There isn't anyone else at my uni doing the same topic at the moment. So there's someone else in my cohort, so year group, who does marine fish migration, looking at the Southern Ocean. There's a few fish behavioural people. other than that, it's a little bit more limited. I think some topics just appeal or more easier to find than others. But I wouldn't say it's also easy to become a biologist because the qualification requirements are maybe a little higher than they used to be.
Right.
It's worth it if you enjoy it. If you want to do any research, if you want to delve into a topic, spend your time just entirely studying something, then it's worth it. But there are other students around. Like there's another girl that studies catfish at University of East Anglia. She studies Corridorus venom, I believe, and coloration.
Okay.
But there's not there's a lot more marine biologists, I think.
Yeah. I guess that ties into the fact that there is not a general study for like freshwater biology or
Yeah, I don't
ecology,
think there's any fish ones
No.
either anywhere. Like where
No.
you just get your degree in fish biology. I think
Yeah.
Bangor University, I think, does marine vertebrates.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, if there was such a study, which is literally just freshwater ichthyology, I think I would consider it because, I find that quite interesting and like, but but as far as I know, in the whole, I mean, I haven't really looked globally to be honest with you, but I don't think, like, if in the EU and the US there's not really such a thing, then there's probably not going to be such a thing anywhere
It's
else, right?
useful to learn the broader topic though, because
Hmm.
I think as you get older, so you regret what you don't remember. I keep bringing back textbooks of modules that I've done, and I barely remember any of it. Particularly developmental biology, because it's kind of like you're looking at this developing egg, and it's like I don't remember anything like why it does that and why it doesn't. Just gonna quickly
Right.
grab something.
Yeah. Graham is here. Hello, Graham. How are you doing? I'll get to your question in a minute. If there are any fish biologists, I mean, there are physicists. Is it physicists? Physicists, right? Fish physicists. We'll see in a minute. Anyway, if you haven't hit the like button yet, hit the like button. Hit that like. And if you got any more questions, put them in the chat because we have about 15 minutes left. So put your questions in the chat if you have any left.
So yeah.
There was a question from Graham.
Any fish physicists?
Yeah.
I don't know about fishes. I believe they are bird physicists. Because
Right.
I remember watching something on, so a lot of like migratory animals use quantum entanglement, I think, or something, to work out their location. It was narrowed down. I don't know how, not a physicist, but I don't think fishes are used as models for it. But it's quite interesting. There is an overlap with biophysics. And there's also, like there's maybe bigger overlap with maths, I guess, and stats. We get quite a few of them and strangely engineering.
Right.
Like when I did my freshwater module, that was in the engineering department, even though it was a geography module.
Okay.
Because I think they were looking mostly about how to create better dams and stuff like that.
Yeah. Let's see. Mike had a question again. Are there a lot of mutations like short-bodied plecos are available around you? What are your thoughts on cultivating these fish?
I've never seen a short-bodied naturally occur like bred loricariid or one that's farmed. I've only seen the stunted, where you get that obvious curvature.
Mm.
I don't know. I assume Netherlands, not either.
I haven't seen any. Like the only things I've seen is like you said, the stunted thing.
Yeah.
It's because that's when I was looking for zebra plecos. Actually, a few of the posts were with the I guess the stunted plecos. I
And the
never.
snub nosed, you'll see.
Yeah, I thought maybe it was that. Maybe.
Yeah, the snub nose, I think it's because they have like a nose bone.
Right.
And like it's easy to see on the CT scan, which is like an X-ray. Well, loads of X-rays laid over each other. But
Yeah.
that kind of, I think it's where the bone's either short or bent. So it's quite an easy, like you can imagine like one bone being bent or short is quite an easy adaptation to accidentally happen.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't like. I for short-bodied goldfish. I don't know. I think it's because they were done so gradually that I feel differently from it for it than I do for short-bodied any other fish. Like short-bodied rams seem so rushed. Like
Yeah.
there's no sort of catering for any other like longevity and stuff like that.
Mm.
And for law cards, I think the same. It's like short-bodied discus as well.
Yeah.
And
I
they're
don't.
already compressed. Like if you
Yeah.
open up a discus, there's not much space to fit anything in.
No.
And then
I.
you're just compressing it. It seems
Yeah.
like they're also compressing the muscle. So it's the same amount of muscle, just even less abdominal space.
Mm. Yeah. I don't really get the point of short-bodied fish. Like I don't even know where the idea came from. Like, because I don't even like the way they look. Like, for example, the short-bodied discus. I think they look terrible. Like
I
they
don't know if
just
it's cute factor. Like, like
could
some small
be.
things and round things are meant to be cute.
I guess the balloon mollies, right?
Yeah.
Those are kind of
I don't know.
um,
It's like parrot cichlids. They just look.
yeah. They don't seem natural. I guess. Well, that's not the whole point of it, is it? But
Yeah, parrot cichlids, I just don't get. They're just nasty as well. At least
mm,
with other short body things, they're not as. But then there's the polar
the
convict
polar
cichlids, the
blue.
hybrid between,
Yeah, I know. Yeah,
and they're just why?
yeah,
Because the
yeah,
nice convict cichlids are beautiful, and they're still slightly roundish in a roundish cichlid way.
yeah, yeah. There's a lot of fish where I just question like what was the whole idea of this creating this fish? Like um,
Yeah.
yeah,
Sometimes though, when you look at discus varieties, and it's like, why?
mm,
It's
yeah,
like, do you know the Stenker Dark Angels, which are like white with a sort of, they literally look peppered
yeah.
naturally,
I know the ones you mean. Yeah,
and it's like,
they like yeah. I don't really get the point of those because they don't really look right. Like they
yeah,
I don't know.
and they had Santarem and one of the other ones which were like brown, and I'm like, most people who are going to be buying domestic discus want colour. If you want something more natural, then you're going to be buying wilds.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. True.
But discus coloration is fascinating, I think, and why people
Hmm.
are buying the different colours.
Yeah,
And there must be trends as well.
yeah. It's bound to be. I mean, um, Graham needs some more discus in his massive tank now, doesn't he? He needs.
I saw that, and
He
it's
could do
like,
with
get your
some.
magnifying glass
I
out.
know.
You'll see the discus eventually.
Like he definitely needs some more discus in that tank for sure. Like, I don't know. How much water does it hold? Because it's 12 feet.
12 foot.
12 by 2 by 2.
2,000, 3,000 litres? No, 2,000 litres.
Could be. I mean, I'm not good with feet because I don't know what feet. Well,
I don't
feet
use
are...
feet either. Wait, so it's like if I'm 5'6",
Right.
so that's like twice, then a bit more.
Yeah.
Because basically,
12 foot is 3 meters 66. Oh, he's put it in chat. About 1,500 liters.
Is that the internal or external measurements?
I don't know. But roughly, so I mean,
Yeah.
it's still quite a decent water volume. Like, I don't know what
And
he has,
one
like,
discus per 25 litres.
then you can have, at least.
Or one discus by 50 litres, whatever is recommended per booklet.
Yeah. Because I think he has about, what, 20 in there now? Maybe about 20? I don't know what he said.
20 is quite a bit as well.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking about costs. I now, like, because I've only got the one female at the moment, I'm like, I go into stores and I'm like, £75 each. I'm like...
Yeah.
And then they're like tiny.
I know.
And having a larger one with tiny ones, the larger one will go for them.
Yeah.
Or you just eat the amount of unhealthy discus, because I think stores should probably only stock them if they're passionate about discus.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think normal fish stores should have discus.
I agree, yeah.
There should be, at least around here, yes, you have some normal stores that keep discus, but not that many, actually. It's more, they will have like angelfish, the alternative,
It's changed a lot, I think.
Yeah.
Since Stinker went, it's gone down, but now it seems to be going up again. I just don't really want to see them doing terribly in stores, because they're not thick. They're smart fish, and they're not they're obviously not doing well in a lot of stores, and they're being mislabeled all the time, different varieties, and no one knows what they are. It's just assorted.
So, but what I've seen around here is we actually getting discus only stores. So literally a fish store with just discus, and they specialize in discus. Yeah.
Just captive bred discus as well.
Both captive bred and imported from Asia.
Okay, so no wilds.
No, not wild. Well, maybe some.
Some might, I guess. Yeah,
some. But I know at least of 2 stores that do that. And it's pretty cool because they only have discus and they specialize in discus. So, and I think that's way better, because if you look at the quality of their discus is higher because they specialize in it and they know what they're doing. Exactly. Whereas, the worst scenario is when like a pet store who have a few fish, if they have discus, it's
and they're
insane.
tiny. They're like that.
Tiny, in tiny tanks as well.
And then, you can't even buy them to put them with your fish, because it's like...
I know.
The reason I also think is the customers. Discus are like marines, and they attract certain people.
Yeah.
And it's more not people that have ever had them before. It's more people that want to keep them. So you get the crazy questions like I've had, can I have one with my Oscar? Can I have 2? And I'm going to keep them in my Polypterus, and then X, Y, and Z. And marines get the same questions. Like, it was the one that I think people not actually realizing that RO means RO and salt. Some people will add straight RO and be like, "Oh, my corals are dying." It's like, oh, shit. But like, it's the person that was like, "Can I keep a starfish, an angelfish, and Nemo?" And everyone would be thinking, "Oh, angelfish, you mean a marine angel?" It's like, no, that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, discus. That's why I think a lot of stores, they're in for a hassle if they stock discus.
Yeah.
Like any
Yeah.
monster fish, like a lot of plecos. Plecos attract the same sort of thing.
True. Yeah. Right. Let's have a quick look at chat. We nearly hit the 2 hour mark, so we're nearly there. Graham says, all my plans are great until it comes to painful things. Pain
Hopefully
is
things
always...
will get cheaper.
Yeah. And he's got sponsors now, so everything should be free, right?
Yeah.
Like, you know. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, just ask Fluke for some discus.
Yeah. Or, I mean, he could also... I don't know if that was the plan. Didn't he say he was going to breed the discus himself to then stock the tank with? Like...
I think so. That sounds familiar because you could. I guess with a tank that big, they will start pairing off properly and actually divide themselves off.
Yeah.
That'd be kind of cool, like to try and just see. Because I don't think anyone really knows how they pair off and then how they go back, if they go back. Because then because I reread the only paper on the ecology, and it seems like at night and in the wet season, discus just swim around on their own.
Right, okay.
Which I was going to do a video on, but I was like, this is just getting too complicated. Because when I got a load of things like, why do you have a discus on your own? I'm like, every time I copy and paste, like, I had my pairs. One dies, what do? You can't... Pairing them isn't that easy, and getting a shoal isn't that easy.
No. True.
It's a bit like any other animal. When you're down to just one, it's like,
Yeah. Especially when you have, like, I don't know, like, for example, with rabbits, you usually keep rabbits together. But then, if one of them dies, the other one's left. And sometimes the other one, what I've experienced, will follow quickly because, but in others circumstances, they go and live for an extra 5 years, like, so, it's always...
it's like... my guinea pigs as well. That's... where Bugsy's sister died a year and a half before her, and Bugsy looked haggard. I was like, how do you live longer?
Yeah.
But it's so difficult with pairing because discus, I think, shoaling is a little bit more complicated. And if you have a shoal, they're going to pair off. So you need another setup to stop the drama there.
Yeah.
Unless you have a tank large enough that they can separate out. And then with pairing, it's getting ones of the right size, because I think I did try her with the big red cover, but he was not having it. And that big red cover was definitely elderly in there.
Yeah.
I've no idea the history of those red covers I had, though. I just bought them and they were like, oh, they were dropped off at Heathrow Airport and with no paperwork, so we got them. I'm like, okay.
Sounds sketchy.
Yeah. But they were nice fish, though. I do like... Red covers are nice. There's a lot of nice varieties.
Yeah. True. I mean, like, there's tons of types of discus, so there's... Like, you can't keep them all, of course, but there's so much to choose from. For sure.
Yeah, I like the wilds. It's just finding them and at the right prices. Like, I was at a store a few weekends back, and theirs were, I think, the really nice Brazilian ones. They were 250 each. And then there were some Colombian ones which weren't entirely for me, and they were, I think, 120. And my maximum kind of for discus is about 80, to be honest.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like the 75 per a pound ones aren't bad. It's just getting a definite male to go with the female, or another female would work.
Yeah.
Just needs to be the right size. So I don't find two males actually works. It's a bit like with, I think rabbits probably get it. Probably get it with other animals where you put two males together and they're never going to be a pair.
No. Usually that doesn't really work out. No.
So I did try it before with my male stenker and with my red cover, I think. And I was like, you just have to go in your own separate tanks and be.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Cool. I think we're there. I mean, it's been 10 o'clock here now, which is the usual end time.
Yeah, it's 9 here, yeah.
Yeah. So, and I don't think there's any other questions in the chat, so we're good on
There's
that
the quick
end.
one from Aquatic Moose. I'll just say I keep my tanks at, they're on Inkbird at, so the Inkbird thermostat's 28.5 to 29.3, I think.
Right.
I would keep higher. I'm just quite aware of oxygen with my Loricariidae, even though they can go much higher in the wild. I will start experimenting with temperature variation when I have the confidence to go higher. But yeah, anyway, cool. I'll let you. Still, that's a quick one.
Yeah, that's good. Well, cool. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you for inviting me.
And I'll get somebody to post your links in the chat. I don't know. Normally, Zenny is here. Zen Ginger, but I haven't seen Zenny. So
I don't think I have either. Maybe she's busy.
Could be. But usually
I can always post them if I can.
Yeah.
Oh, let me just, because otherwise it's going to start playing the bloody video. What's it? There we go. Think that link works.
They probably can't click. I don't know if you're a moderator.
No, it just tags me.
Oh yeah. Wait, let me see. I can do it here.
I've also got my website, which I need to post more to.
Oh yeah, of course. What's the link for that? What was it called?
The Scientific Fish Keeper. Some people don't realise it's me, even though I've got an about me section. Like the by now it's quite common. Like I've had it with YouTube as well. They like mention stuff on my YouTube, and then it's like, yeah that's me.
Right. Cool. I'll just get that linked in here. All right. Cool. Awesome. All right. Well, I guess that's it. Thank you guys all for watching and tuning in. Hope you guys found it useful, informational, entertaining to some extent, maybe. And yeah, I guess that's it. So thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, all that good stuff, of course. Let me find my end screen here. Here it is. So yeah, have a great rest of you guys' day, and we'll see you guys next time.
Thank you.
Bye.